And that was the first time, Jan, where I was like, oh, I think I'm living in the future right now. And for people who are using ChatGPT, who are using these tools, who not have just like dabbled a couple times and then put it away for a few months, people who really know and understand and work with these tools and almost think of it as a creative partner in many ways, you're living in the future right now. Because, Jan, to your question, most of the world is not ready for this. Yeah, I would say it's probably 20 minutes a day. Like, that's how I would actually think about that, Jan. It's time. This is not something where you need a degree in a certain field to use these tools. I mean, they're using whatever your native language is, and you can use this. If you don't know how to prompt, you just ask it. Say like, hey, ChatGPT, I actually don't know how to prompt. Like, I want you to do this. Like, what would an effective prompt be? Can you teach me how to prompt? It's like having a co-writer. We don't all have the luxury of having a writing partner that we can work with all the time. Like, with these tools, we have that, and it allows us to be more creative. That's one thing I firmly do believe. Like, AI isn't about sapping creativity. It allows us to be more creative.
Hi, and welcome to the Exceptional Leverage Podcast. My name is Jan, and I am the host. Today, I have Mike Todasco with me. Hi.
Hey, Jan. How are you?
Good, doing good. Finally, I recovered from influenza, so getting better. Yes, back to recording. Yeah. And Mike, before we jump into the whole podcast, I would like to just quickly introduce you, if that's okay with you. Yeah. So basically, Mike is a person who has around 100 patents granted in the United States. So I'm really curious what those patents can be. You are also a visiting fellow of San Diego State University, which might be very interesting for my European audience, because I believe that we don't know so much about states and universities as well. And also, you are I would say exceptional user of artificial intelligence. You do it, or you use it daily, right? That's something.
Oh yeah, easily. Yes. Yeah.
Easily. And you will definitely share with us some tips and tricks of how to use actually generative AI, or how to talk to ChatGPT, for example, during your walks.
Sure. Yes. Happy to.
So Mike, the first question is actually, probably my audience is curious, like, why you are with me. And I can tell to everybody who's listening and watching that I had a reason to actually contact Mike for the podcast, because I believe that he's the right person. He has exceptional, really, experience when it comes to technologies, artificial intelligence as well. And we will also talk a little bit about writing, but that's later on. So first of all, Mike, what's your background actually? Like, how did you actually discover artificial intelligence, and what happened before?
Yeah. How did I discover AI? It probably would have been my times at PayPal. I was, I started there 2011, and, AI/machine learning was very much a part of just operations, especially around risk and security and things like that as part of the business. You couldn't just do what you needed to do with the billions and billions of transactions happening on a site like that with traditional methods of computing. And so you had to use machine learning tools to stay ahead of the bad guys. And so I was at PayPal for over 11 years. And in my time there, I got to work on a lot of different products as a product manager. But also in my back half at the company, I got to run the innovation group, where I got to focus on a lot of different cool emerging technologies, blockchain, augmented reality, definitely dabbled in machine learning stuff, and all this other wonderful stuff. But anything that was kind of outside the scope of what was normal tech were things that we got to play around with and look at. And before PayPal, so my background is I'm not a technologist. My degree is in finance. My first job was in corporate finance. I had time in private equity, and I had a startup that was an e-commerce company that failed in between the private equity and joining PayPal. That's my background.
And why do you think that actually, when you think back, that startup failed? Was it like lack of experience, maybe?
That was horrible. Sorry. Finish your question.
No. That's okay. You can go with your answer. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no,
it
I
was
had no
horrible.
idea
You
what I was
say.
doing. Like honestly, like so here was the thesis. I collected comic books as a kid. And I remember
Mhm.
as a child, actually, do I have a piece here? Hold on a second. I'm going to use a visual aid for anybody who's watching this.
Yeah, go
Um,
for it.
you could have every comic book came from a piece of original artwork, and it would look something like
Mhm.
this. And this was something I actually had a comic artist make for my team when I was at PayPal. Yeah, I'll
Mhm.
try and show. Erica Henderson is her name. She's an awesome artist, the Squirrel Girl and all these other Marvel comics and things like that. And these hand drawn pages, there's only one of them that exists in the world for every page of a comic that's ever been
Mhm.
created. But millions of people have seen the actual comics themselves. And so it creates this weird problem when there's millions of different pages, but only one of each of them exists. It's actually a really hard problem to solve for anybody who's looking for that. And my thesis in 2007, 2008 was collectibles were vastly underserved by sites like eBay. Like, if you
Mhm.
were a sneaker collector, if you were a collectible pens collector, whatever, all these different things of like, could we create micro sites to do that? That was the thesis. I wanted to start with this problem because I really knew and understood it. Um, I had some traction. I had buyers, I had sellers on there, but also I had no idea what I was doing because, for example, when we launched the site, we didn't even have a secure checkout. This was before Stripe and Braintree and all those products. Like you had to build a checkout from scratch. You had to make sure you had SSL and all these other things. And I didn't know what to even ask. I was just hiring a bunch of people on Upwork to build the site,
Mhm.
and it was it was just chaos. It was 2 years of chaos of basically doing this, but I learned so much in the experience. And that's, I mean, yes, wonderful experience. Doing it again, there's so much I would do differently. I will say it got me a job at PayPal because in my interview at
Mhm.
PayPal, all I did
Mhm.
was talk about all the hundreds of ways that I failed and what I would do differently and what I learned and all that. Like it was literally 8 hours of me talking about my failures. Um, and in Silicon Valley and these kind of companies, like you
Yep.
appreciate that. Like, because I mean, that's the only way you learn is like, okay, I did this
Mhm.
wrong. How am I going to do it differently next time?
Mhm. And just to jump into it, I don't think that it would work actually in Europe. When I talk about or used to talk about my failures on the interviews, like managers and HR was looking like, okay, this guy failed. That's not something he should probably do. So hiring in Europe a couple of years back, let's say 10, 15 years, looked totally different than in States. I can confirm that definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and look, it's a shame because that's not how human beings work. I mean,
Mhm.
human beings we learn by failing. We are not born knowing the multiplication tables. We learn this through trial and error. We learn everything through trial and error. And if you're a company and you're saying to your employees you're not allowed to fail or you have to sweep that under the rug if you
Mhm.
fail or whatnot, it's not creating the right culture. Like, I mean, versus if you're in a culture that says like, okay, fail, brush yourself off. What did you learn from that failure? How are you going to do different next time?
Mhm.
And frankly, how do you teach others about the failure that you had? Just so like any others can learn from that. I know when I was at PayPal running innovation, we had at our headquarters we had this innovation lab, was really nice, and one of the things that we were actually building was a failure graveyard. This was right before COVID, so
Okay.
we had this thing. It was about 2 meters by 1 meter. This piece of wood, and we were scaling down the PayPal campus, a miniature version of it, where we had we even put bushes and we were getting the right scale of people. And then we had little QR codes that we were putting on the side. And the QR codes were going to take people to was stories from the people who built these products at PayPal
Mhm.
and talk
Mhm.
about their failures, learn from them, and so forth. And one of the things that inspired me from them, it was because when I started at PayPal, we were very much focused on in-store payments with QR codes.
Mhm.
And this was 2011, 2010 timeframe. Fast forward, basically in the United States, at least, QR codes were dead. But 2018, 2019 in Asia, like people were paying with QR codes everywhere. I mean, it was
Hmm.
like so common to see that. And, so like, well, what did we miss? What could we learn from that? Like, was it just the wrong time? Was there something wrong in implementation?
Hmm.
Like, could we actually take what we built then and then apply this to a market now? Like, these are all things that we need to ask. And just to say somebody failed and they're not good because it's really short-sighted.
Hmm.
Because look,
Hmm.
sometimes people will succeed and succeed for the wrong reason too. Like luck is a big thing that plays into all of the things that we do. Just because you've had successes in your life doesn't mean you'll have successes in the future. Just because you're failed, same thing. Doesn't mean you're going to continue failing.
Yeah, definitely agree here. And funny thing is that back when during my corporate life, it was probably 2014, we tried actually implementing one project QR codes. And I can tell you around those years, 2014, 15, QR codes were really everywhere, but nobody was using them. Like everybody was like, this is so future technology. Like, how can you use it? We still have barcodes. Like, come on.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, no, it's
so
it's really fascinating, and that's why so much of like just a business, a product, and all that. Timing is a huge factor. It's one of the
mhm,
products I worked on was something called PayPal Beacon. I love the product. It was a hands-free way to pay. Little piece of hardware in a store. You would walk in with your phone. It would pair with your phone. You wouldn't even touch your phone, and you'd be able to pay and check out. But in 2013, people were freaked out by that. They were, like literally,
mhm,
we were Stanford University is right by PayPal. We would go to Stanford University. They have this University Avenue where all the students will hang out and a lot of people. So
mhm,
people who know technology are there. I remember we were set up in a few stores on that street, and we would go into these stores and I would talk to potential customers and say like, hey, what do you think about this? And students would tell me like, why would I ever use my phone to make a payment? Like literally, like why I have a credit card? Why would I use my phone to pay? That makes no sense. Like those, like verbatim. That's the kind of things that I would be told. They weren't. The world wasn't ready for this. And if we would have done this 4 or 5 years later, that would have been a totally different story. But just people, especially tech savvy people at Stanford, even then,
mhm.
were not ready for this.
Yeah, definitely. And Mike, before I would like to go to the second part of the podcast, like talk about AI, but I still have a question about those patents, and I'm just not
Yeah.
sure how to direct this conversation. So I'm really genuine here, because no, let's do it. Do you think that the world is now ready for AI and everything what is happening, or we are now in this year, let's think like 2013, 14, when the world is still not ready for AI? Because I can tell you, in my environment, I still have people around me which say like, what is this? Like, I don't need this. It's like the same that QR codes were not used back in 2013, and now I have one on my business card, right? Or
Yeah.
we use it for payments and redirects and so on. So, do you think that the world is ready for AI, or the
No,
timing is still not good?
no, I don't think most of the world is, but I think that gives an advantage for the people in the world who are ready for AI.
Hmm.
That gives you superpowers during this time. I mean, like, there's no other way to describe it. I remember I started college in 1995. I had never used the internet before I got to college. I get to school, and it just happens to be at the University of Illinois in Champaign. This is the school where Mark Andreessen and folks were creating Netscape and the Mozilla browser, and all this was being created just before. So I get there and I'm like, what is this online? I don't even know what this is. Like I don't understand. There's all these links, all this stuff. I remember, a few months later, then coming home, seeing all my
Hmm.
friends from, high school and all that when I was there. And I was telling them about this, and they're all like, "What are you talking about? Like we don't have this at our schools. Like, what's the big deal? What, what, like what?" And that was the first time, Jan, where I was like, "Oh, I think I'm living in the future right now." And for people who are using ChatGPT, who are using these tools, who not have just like dabbled a couple times and then put it away for a few months, people who really know and understand and work with these tools and almost think of it as a creative partner in many ways, you're living in the future right now because,
Hmm.
to your question, most of the world is not ready for this. But for the
Hmm.
people who are, who people who can take advantage, like it's amazing what you can do. I have all this stuff happening, and I have set at the university. They signed me up, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to do a talk in a few weeks?" And then they just said to me, like, "Hey, can you send us those materials in 24 hours?" I haven't even started. Like, I literally just like, oh, this title looks good. I have zero things prepped for it. And my natural reaction was like, are you crazy? You're going to have me do an hour talk. I have zero slides. I have zero content. And then I actually stopped and paused and be like, oh yeah, I could use AI for this. And not the whole thing is going to be AI, but I'm going to have AI working at my side, doing all this. And it's going to let me say like, oh yeah, I guess I could get you the stuff you need in 24 hours versus, before it would have been like, are you crazy? Like, this is going to take me a few days to do this. You could just be that much more effective today.
Yeah, definitely. And also, like, this is what I have a feeling that the people who are really using AI nowadays, it doesn't really matter if you create a basic logo or, just do a draft of emails, are having a huge advantage in comparing, in comparison to others. But still, my question is like, where do you think is the sweet spot? Like, what is the basic knowledge of AI you need to have actually that one? Because some people are not able to prompt. Some people are really good in prompting. Some people are really good in design, but sometimes they might create I don't know, Ghibli studio picture, which is like all the hype and everything what is going on. So what is the sweet spot when it comes to really use AI in a way that you have the leverage above everybody else who is not using? Or is that something like that, or not really, in your opinion?
Yeah. I would say it's probably 20 minutes a day. Like, that's how I
20
would actually
minutes ago.
think about that, Jan. It's time. This is not something where you need a degree in a certain field to use these tools. I mean, they're using whatever your native language is, and you could use this. If you don't know how to prompt, you just ask it. Say like, hey, ChatGPT, I actually don't know how to prompt. Like, I want you to do this. Like, what would an effective prompt be? Can you teach me how to prompt? Like, just being open, being vulnerable, and like, it's not even a person you're vulnerable with. It's a piece of software you're being vulnerable with here. Like, just to spend time with it, to ask questions, to stick with it, to be diligent. That's what you need to be successful. There isn't anything else that I can see. It is literally, if you just spend 20 minutes a day for a month using these tools, at the other end of it, you're going to be really good because you're going to have spent time with it. You're going to know what the tools are really good for. You'll also know what the tools are not good for, at least today. And those things change over time. They're constantly evolving. But like, it literally is just time and effort on your side, and it doesn't have to be a lot. And it will drastically help professionally and personally how you operate in the world.
Great answer. This is what I was looking for. So 20 minutes a day is a is a tip
Yeah,
from
that's
my.
it.
And I believe that yeah, I use actually AI around 20 minutes a day. I used to use it, like all the time, and it was a couple of hours daily. And then I realized like I am not doing anything else. Like where is the whole creative part? Like, can I go to, I don't know, to the bathroom without my phone and ChatGPT is sitting next to me, right? So then I realized myself it's time to stop
Yeah.
and a little
Well,
bit, lower it.
it is good you recognize that. Like, I saw somebody posted a caption saying like, "Ooh, I think it was something like, oh, I got a raise today," and then right below that it said, "I need to go tell ChatGPT about this." Like that's like where we're at in the world now. It's like, oh, something exciting, whatever it is, has happened to your life, or like, I need to tell ChatGPT. Like, we're starting to go down this path of the her like future. I mean, people are getting emotional attachments to these models. It's hard not to. This is how we're wired as human beings. If we have, look, we anthropomorphize clouds. We anthropomorphize grilled cheese that has something that looks like there's a god or a person or a whatever on the grilled cheese sandwich. We do these things all the time as humans. We are wired to see faces and images and traits of human beings, even when there are not any. That's what we see in AI. and we're going to continue to see that. And look, I think it is going to change how we operate. And frankly, for us personally, is probably a good thing to put some level of guardrail on there to keep you from getting a little bit too far down that path.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I can imagine Sam Altman now like sweating, what he just said a couple of days ago, that when you say thank you, do you say thank you to ChatGPT?
Do I say thank you to it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I do. I do
Yes, you
say
do.
thank you to it. And I have kids, so we have like Googles in our house and so forth. And I will always say thank you to Google and encourage the kids to. Not that I think it's more of just a good habit, like just to say thank you.
Yeah.
Americans say thank you a lot to stuff. And I'm also like, my father's Canadian, so I got that kind of Canadian thing of just always being overly polite. So I think it's just good to say it, even though it isn't a thing. It's just doing its task. I mean, I don't say thank you to Microsoft Excel when it calculates a formula. So I do see the hypocrisy in there. I do see how I am anthropomorphizing it as well when I say thank you. But yes, I do.
You do. You know why I'm asking this question? Because for everybody who is listening, I'm not sure if you heard or saw the post from Sam Altman when he said that when you people say thank you to ChatGPT, it cost us millions of dollars because it's like empty token.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, and frankly, so if that's true, what Sam said, I saw the tweet as well. What they need to do is, and this is probably what they've hinted at coming in GPT-5 when this comes out, that there will be an orchestration layer. So no longer you have like 12 different models you have to choose from. You just give it the prompt that's going to do that. Hopefully they're going to build something in. When they see thank you, then they go to another. It's just going to be a binary response system. Say like, okay, thank you. Go with the dumbest language model we have and give some sort of response. Or here's a list of 100 different responses. Just return one of those to that. Boom, right there. OpenAI, I've saved you $10 million to just put a couple lines of code in there. And that's all that they would need to do, hopefully.
And that would make sense, because now when you see the portfolio of all the models, like it's really hard to choose which one you want to use.
I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing in the models, and I spend all my time on this. Like, I know O3 seems pretty darn good. I'm using that for most stuff. But like, I don't know what to do in ChatGPT specifically right now. That is a problem, but I think they know it's a problem, and I think they're going to solve it.
Yeah, definitely. I am a team Claude AI, so I actually stopped paying for ChatGPT around 4 months ago.
Oh, really? I pay for everything. I got Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, Midjourney, Grammarly. Am I missing any other ones there? I'm sure there's probably a couple others I might think of, but I pay for at least 5.
At least 5. That's still fine. Yeah. And do you use any visual tool? Like you said, Midjourney, but also, for example, I heard recently people talking a lot about Gamma AI, the presentation model or generative AI.
So I've never used Gamma, but I actually use ChatGPT image generation for presentations now. So next week, I'm actually going to be giving a presentation for the first time at the university, and actually 2 presentations. And one of them is going to be to a group of accountants. It's going to be talking about accounting in the world of AI and the intersection. So usually when I'm talking about AI, I usually use a robot as a physical example, almost like a mascot to have in my presentations or whatnot. But because accounting, at least in the United States, like there's a old imagery of a person wearing like a green visor hat and just typing away and so forth. So I put a green visor on a robot, and then I had that be the mascot of my presentation. So then I would put the info in there and I'd say, hey, ChatGPT, I want you to do this slide in an Art Deco style. I want you to use this robot image, and I want the robot in this position. And here are the 5 bullet points that I want you to type out on the slide. I would put that in the ChatGPT, and it would give me literally on what I want. I would take that, I would paste that in there, move on to the next slide. Like that is, next level of kind of where we're going with this. So
Hmm.
yeah, ChatGPT, because the new ChatGPT image generation, for folks who don't
Hmm.
know, it has a great adherence to text, meaning that if you put the letters in there, it is going to spit out the letters really how you want it. It sometimes screws up a little bit here and there. You could either edit those things. I usually don't edit those things because I'm usually talking about AI. I like to show the shortcomings with it.
Hmm.
So I will just put it in there as is. But they've basically generate images in a different way than they have before, which helps them
Hmm.
generate this text beautifully. And you could just make presentations with that, and really good looking ones too.
Hmm. That's a great tip. Actually, I need to go back to ChatGPT. So yeah, Sam Altman, here is my $25 coming to you.
Yeah, exactly. You just, I mean, the big ones I just pay for and just like, I don't even think
Yeah.
about it. I just assume because one month one will have this and like, they're constantly doing that. Yeah.
But this is important what you are saying now, because you mentioned it already before, that you need to learn what tool is good in what actually task. Because some, for example, Claude, I use Claude because it gives me like really nice human like answers, right? This is what I
Mhm.
why I stopped. And for example, Dali was like really terrible. So
Oh,
I
it
was
was
not.
atrocious for like a year and a half. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I rather paid for Midjourney,
Yeah.
right? Because it's definitely much better. And I know that Midjourney now has Midjourney 7, the new update, which is
Yeah.
having a pretty good results, and it's
I think it's
slightly
so
better
so.
than
I
the
mean, yeah,
so.
compared to what you could do with ChatGPT, it's like it was disappointing for me.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good discussion. I need to do tests.
But I think to your point though, Jan, like for most people, here's what I would say. Like for most people, don't worry too much about the horse racing of like, hey, ChatGPT has something and it seems to be a little bit better, and oh, this one moved up on the leaderboards. This one, like, here's the reality. If you're using Claude, if you're using Gemini, ChatGPT, if one of them is provided to you through your work, through your employer,
Hmm.
just use that one, because you probably should be using the employer improved one. If you have your own business and can choose whichever one you want, then spend the $25 a month on whichever one you like the most, and it's going to be totally fine. Don't worry too much about on the edges, because
Hmm.
eventually they all will, seemingly they're all going to get there. um, one of the things, they're trying to create stickiness to make it so you don't switch as much.
Hmm.
So ChatGPT now has unlimited memory in there, which is a nice feature that, it'll remember things from years ago and so forth, but they're eventually all going to have that
Hmm.
as well. So all of these features will come out over time. Just find the one that works best for you. That's what I always tell
Hmm.
people.
Great tip, Mike. I'm just thinking like the stickiness. Some are overthinking it. For example, Claude recently, just a few days ago, they introduced a new limit to your queries. So now I am able to ask only, for example, 10 questions, right? And
Mm,
before it was almost unlimited. So they came out with the idea, let's limit the prompts, let's limit the results. Let's make people use shorter chats, because it always says like this chat is really long, you should start the new one, and when you start the new one it's a new query, so it's actually getting your limit lower. And then
yeah.
they introduce the pro subscription for $100 per month, where you can supposedly use more power and more answers. So this is how I see it. So some of them are now like hunting for money, I guess.
Oh yeah. Look, these are expensive to run. If you're
Hmm.
using ChatGPT or Claude to its limits, they're probably losing money on you. I mean, the odds are it's not cheap to run these models.
Hmm.
They will get better. They will get more efficient over time. Um, so yeah, they might be limiting you in some way with these things. I can definitely see that. That is something I tend to get frustrated. Even though I do like Claude
Hmm.
best, I write an article or something, I will usually use Claude as my thought partner
Hmm.
versus ChatGPT. But yeah, it does tend to limit more, at least on the $20 a month version I pay for.
Yeah, and you said actually a pretty nice prompt when you discussed that how do you create presentation. But my question is like, do you use only text prompts, or you are talking to AI as well? So you are using voice mode.
Oh, I love voice mode. It all depends, is the honest answer. So
Hmm.
it completely depends. I like using voice mode when I'm out. Like if I'm in front of my computer, I'll usually just use text. But if I'm out and like if I'm driving in the car, just yesterday,
Hmm.
for example, I was driving my kids to school. We were talking about foreign languages. My daughter is going to be going into sixth grade next year, and she gets to choose what language. And um, she's leaning towards French right now. My son, who's a little bit older, is took
Hmm.
Mandarin when in school and continues to take that. And we are just talking about like kind of the default languages. I'm like, well,
Hmm.
when did it switch from? Because they didn't know that like French was like the language of business. You know, and like all things like airlines and all this other kind of stuff. It was all done in French. And then English kind of took over for that as the standard. And so that was just a great time to power up OpenAI with
Hmm.
the voice mode and just have a conversation like, hey, kids in the car here, they're curious about this. Can you tell us the story? How did this happen? Like, and tell us maybe some interesting specific anecdotes from that. And then they get to ask more about that. And like, it becomes like
Hmm.
this educational experience with it. So I
Hmm.
love using voice mode for that kind of stuff. It's really, really helpful. I am very excited. I have a Google Pixel phone, and
Hmm.
I think they've just recently released the screen capture thing where you can actually have it running, I believe, in Chrome, and it'll just see everything that you're typing. So if you're like on a
Hmm.
website, if you're trying to figure out like, hey, where the heck am I supposed to go for this or whatever, it's doing that. You can talk to it in voice while it's just watching your screen. So it's like it can troubleshoot for you. It can do all of these kind of things for it. And like, those kind of multimodal techniques, I think are really interesting and really powerful.
Hmm.
So yes, I use probably mostly text, but if I'm not in front of a computer, using video, using voice, absolutely, I'll do that.
Hmm. Interesting piece of information. I need to check it how we stand in European Union, because the pixel thing you just mentioned, with European Union limiting everything, like even Apple Intelligence for a couple of months already. I am not sure how it will be, but I will check it out with some experts as well, like how we stand in here.
With iPhone, at least I don't know if this is going to get me or other people into trouble. So check your local laws of what's allowed. But it's not hard to geo spoof an Android device and say you're somewhere where you're not. So I think that there are limits on that and so forth. But yeah, I could see being pretty frustrated. You see, like, oh gosh, America and Asia get all this
Yeah.
cool stuff, but we don't. There might be ways around that if you were to just put an app on your device to move your GPS somewhere else. But
Okay.
people got to
Okay.
figure that out themselves if they want to go that route.
Okay.
So, yeah,
If you know someone who can help me, like DM me, please.
yeah. There you go. There you
Good.
go.
And Mike, when it comes to AI, you already started, to direct the discussion also to where we are heading, right? So
Yeah,
everybody's asking a lot of questions, and to me, and like in generally, like, will I lose my job, for example? That's the probably most asked questions in the last
yeah.
2.5 years. Like, do you think that the direction we are heading with artificial intelligence, general artificial intelligence, like, will people actually lose their job tomorrow or in 2 years?
Um, I think it's possible. I think it's unlikely for most people.
Hmm.
I was actually, I think I'm doing a panel next week, and we had a pre-interview, and one of the people were saying there was some reports saying like 25% of jobs might be lost within the next 18 months. I just don't see that happening. Even if an AI can do it, there is so much bureaucracy. There's so many other things in there that, like, again, even if we had just AGI, artificial general intelligence, dropped on us today, it's free, it's accessible by everyone. I don't think the world changes tomorrow. I think that takes some time for us because like there's a lot of things that we have. I mean, this is the whole reason why bigger businesses are struggling more with AI today than smaller businesses are. This is why Google, frankly, has been getting beaten very much in the AI in the generative AI race by OpenAI, despite having a 4 or 5 year lead on them, despite
Hmm.
inventing, writing
Hmm.
the transformer paper and doing all these other kind of things. Like I think they're finally starting to catch up now. So there's a lot of disadvantages in that world. about the jobs, like the one thing I can point to, and I wrote about this at length about a year ago on my blog. If you would go back to 2016, there's an interview with Jeffrey Hinton, who's kind of considered one of the godfathers of AI. He's talking at Berkeley, just kind of up the road from me here. And almost jokingly, he was saying, with where we're going, the last thing you would ever do is let your kid become a radiologist. So somebody who uses, who's looking at the body and imaging and all that other kind of stuff, that's the last job you would want, because you want an AI is going to be able to do that better. This was in 2016. So this is almost 10 years ago. He was saying this. And I remember there's laughs in the audience. And that was just generally believed wisdom across the board. If you look today, 2025, there are actually more radiologists in the US today than there were in 2016. So there's more. But, and you might be like, well, I'm sure they weren't using AI. No, radiologists by far, the Food and Drug Administration approves software to certain levels, and there's like tags to like what it's used for. Radiologist software is by far the most used AI software of any field in medicine. So they're using AI more than anybody else is. And there's more of them out there. How can that be? Well, a radiologist's job has completely changed. What they were doing 10 years ago versus today is totally different. They're using these AIs. It's more of a partnership that they have with these tools. It's allowing them to do more output, to actually be more effective, to be more useful. It's expanded the scope of their job. And for most people, that's hopefully what's going to happen with AI in your job. If you think that you're going to be doing the exact same thing today that you're going to be doing, 5 years from now that you're doing today, that's not going to be the case. AI is going to change that. And I think what you need to just ask is, well, what are the things that are important? What are the things that, the personal relations that I do with customers or with other people or whatever it might be? How do I do more of that and less of the paperwork side of things that the AI is really good at? And I think those are the kind of questions people should ask themselves. And one of the best ways to figure that out is to actually know what an AI can and cannot do. And the best way to do that is to spend 20 minutes a day with these tools.
That's a great tip. I just, started to imagine my life in 5 years from now. I can tell you one thing that I can confirm your way of thinking, because thanks to AI and thanks to a little bit more probably than 20 minutes now, but still around 20 minutes a day, I am able to accumulate a couple of hours in a week, right? And I'm using those couple of hours of time, which I got instead of, being and doing manual job, to really talk to people, like to record a podcast once per week, right? Or just to go for a walk or play some golf or, like do something with my family, for example. And it thanks to AI. So yes. And regards my job, I have a feeling that I don't work. Like really.
Yeah. And maybe, and maybe that's a good thing. And one of the things I wrote about in this was how, back 100 years ago, John Maynard Keynes, the economist, was predicting productivity growth, frankly, over like the next 100 years. And one of the things he very famously said is like, hey, productivity growth we're going to see across the world is going to go like this. We're just going to see continued productivity growth. And what's that going to mean? People who were working an average of, I don't know, it's probably like 60 hours a week or something back then. And people did work more in the past. I mean, like people don't realize like there was much more work being done 100 years ago than there was today. And that's a good thing that we're working less, to be clear. But he was like, yeah, people are going to only work 15 hours a week. Well, it never fully got to that. Needless to say, like very few people are doing that. And in large part because we as a society had such a desire for an increase in standard of living. Our homes are all bigger, like, and all these other things that actually cost money. So instead of working less, we chose to buy more stuff. That was the thing as a collective world we all decided to do. But I think AI gives us another chance. It can continue this productivity growth greatly. And I think it's a wonderful thing if we say, hey, can we take some of this and have this lead to more recreation, more creativity, more hobbies, more whatever, like other ways to get, like one of the things I don't like about American culture is everyone finds identity through their jobs. One of the first things you see in America when you see somebody at a party, what do you do? It's not like, what do you think? Who, like, whatever. It's what do you do? Like, your identity is through your job. That's probably not a good thing. So if you can actually expand that and go much, to say like, we're more than that, and we have all these other things. And if AI could play a piece in helping us as a world get there, I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, that question about what do you do is not only in States, it's also, we are after Easter and everybody's asking, what do you do? And I tell them what I do and they don't understand.
Why? Because they don't think talking to people across the continents in front of a microphone is a real job. Is that it, Jan? Or
that's one thing, but they don't understand. They don't know what is it. Artificial intelligence is one thing, like to explain the technology, how it works and calculates and so on. Maybe it's the easy part, but how can you make money with it? Like, that's the question. Like, the second question after what do you do is how much you earn and how do you make money? That's in our culture. So basically that's the hard part, like to explain that you can actually use technology, you can automate processes, right? And I will ask now the question to you, or soon to you as well. And simply the knowledge is not there. They don't get it, right? They don't get digital marketing. Like, not everybody, of course. Like, I am talking about generation, the population, like the average population and family members, right? Which are like probably sometimes older than I. So basically the question is now, like, how can we as people ensure that people understand it, kind of? And second, are you using any automation in your daily work, or it's everything one-on-one, action?
Let me take the first one, the second question first. The main place where I've been using automation, like I have dabbled with things like Zapier and make.com to actually, these are tools that people don't know, to actually connect these devices where you can, trigger one thing here and then it goes to a GPT and then it goes to your Gmail and that sends something here and all that. And it could connect these things. I don't do too much of that. The one thing I have been using a lot is deep research, which has been really helpful. Just for example, I'm going to be taking a little trip to Europe this summer with my family, and all that we have is in and out of Zurich. We got nothing else planned. And I was literally like, okay, I'm just going to sit down with OpenAI with ChatGPT. I'm going to do all this. And then like, it knows all this about me, knows this. I'm like, okay, give me a detailed itinerary. And it went off for like 15 minutes or so before like coming back with something that I'm like, this is damn good. And I'm like, my wife and I'll probably tweak it and so forth. But like, that was probably like, I don't know, 6-7 hours worth of work that I was able to do in 15 minutes while I was off doing other things. And like, that is pretty darn impressive to do that. And those deep research tools, most of them have it. Like Perplexity has a deep research. That's, I think it's you could use it for free. A lot of them you can even use for free. And what they will do is like they'll kind of do these automated tasks for you. So that is the one place where I do that. Sorry, what was your first question? That was the second question. What was the first one again, Jan?
The first question was actually, I forgot as well.
Okay, we'll move on. No problem. I had an answer for it too, but I got so into the deep research. So yeah, I think there's tons of value in using that.
I actually like the second question more. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no. I did use Operator, which was an actual agent that ChatGPT had. I wrote about that. It was a disaster. I don't even think they should have released it as a product.
Okay.
I think it's kind of embarrassing. I don't think they've said a single thing with it. So, people want to look at my blog. You could actually see the post I did about Operator and just see how bad it was. Like, look, I was just being honest and open about it. I gain nothing by seeing them fail. I want them to succeed, and I'm sure they eventually will. But as of now, it's not there.
Operator, I remember that was the thing, like, which was like totally independent, working on the computer, right? Opening windows and creating, I don't know, shop. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It would actually create a window. It was like it had its own browser So it wouldn't
Mhm.
run in your Chrome browser, but it would embed a browser within the ChatGPT instance, and you would see it doing all this stuff and all that. But like it, actually was related to trip planning. Well, one of the things I had to do was like, hey, what is the cheapest flight, direct flight from San Francisco to Europe? And I had it do that. That was the only question I gave it. And actually, I think I gave it dates. Went back, looked at all these travel sites. It came back to me with responses like, we could find a flight from Florida to San Francisco on that day, and it costs this much. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not going. Like that was the most useless thing ever. And it literally took like 20 minutes to give me that response, and then I was just like, I'm done
Uh,
with this thing. I like this. This is just not ready. They should not have released it.
oh
Yeah,
my God. M-
yeah.
Millions of dollars burned in one single
Millions of
project.
dollars burned to give me a flight from Florida to where I'm already at. Yes. Yeah. I'm like, that was
Amazing.
at least it could have maybe sent me to Florida, but no. Maybe it thought Florida was part of Europe. No, I don't know what it was doing. It was really ridiculous.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And going back to trip planning, like to Europe, was
Yeah.
there any plan to visit, or is there any plan to visit Poland? If not, then it's
No,
not good.
not yet. My mother's side of the family, though, my
Mhm.
mom's maiden name is Dusa, Dusza.
Mhm.
They're from Poland. I have never been, but I would love to go at some point. The flight we got put us into Zurich, so we're going to be kind of
Mhm.
around that part, Switzerland, maybe Italy, France, kind of in
Mhm.
that area, right? Germany. Not making out to Poland, but man, I want to go out there sometime.
When just a quick tip: when you will be in Switzerland, do not switch on your mobile browsing or using mobile data, because you will pay thousands of euros, actually Swiss francs, for that one. They are not in a European
Really?
Union, so we will pay shit lot of money for that. Yes, I have a
So
experience in
just get a
family.
second SIM card or whatever is what you're
Yeah,
saying. Get a
definitely.
local.
Yeah, local if you can. Yes, that's pro tip about Switzerland.
Thank you. I've never been to
Awesome.
Switzerland. I did not know that at all. So thank you.
Yeah.
I'm
In
writing that
Poland
down
is
right now.
different story. You are, in
You're
Poland
fine
you
in
can do
Poland.
whatever.
Okay, good, good, good.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
so so Mike, another question I have on my list is like, do you think people should actually fear artificial intelligence? Not even job wise, but in general, like what is going on with deepfakes and how this technology is used both ways. Like,
Look, I think there's reason to have some level of concern. Jan, have you ever watched the show Black Mirror?
yeah,
Okay, I
I think
highly
I
recommend.
ended up in the second season, but yes.
Yeah, there's a brand new season out. There's a lot about AI in there, needless to say,
Okay.
as there often is. I think it's a good test and a good way to keep us grounded. We used to actually have viewing parties of Black Mirror back when I was at PayPal. We would just put it out in the innovation lab. People would come in during lunch and we'd like watch episodes and talk about it and everything. And, it was a great, very dystopian, very dark. But it was just a great
Mhm.
tool to just kind of think about, well, what could go wrong? I've talked about a lot of things optimistically, and you're bringing up a great question, Jan, of like, hey, like what is the downside here? Could or should people be worried? Look, this is potentially the most disruptive technology we're ever going to make as a human
Mhm.
species. There are so many things in the world of healthcare, in energy, and all of these other things, like big problems that are hard and plaguing us in society that AI can really help us solve. And I think there's a lot of potential there. But the reality is, like, we're creating something, I don't want to call it a species, but something that is going to be smarter than any of
Mhm.
us. We've never had that on this planet. We've always been the smartest thing that's around there. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know what that's going to mean for us. So, like, could there be dark times coming from this? Yeah, I think there could. Um, but I don't think and truly, I will say, like, there's so much geopolitical pressure. I don't think there's any stopping this from happening. I don't see the country, U.S. and China and Poland and everyone else getting together and say, like, okay, we're done with AI. Like, that's not going to happen. I mean, it's a little bit. It's this century's arms race, is what it really is, and like building out these models and seeing what it could do and so forth. Look, it's going to be just like every revolution that happened before this, the Industrial Revolution, moving from, where most people, in the United States, you had 90% of people who worked in agriculture. And, Industrial Revolution changed that. You moved from the fields to the factories. And what did that mean and so forth for our society? That was really disruptive for people at that time. But we were okay in the end. I'm ultimately an optimist. While I do see there's going to be tough transition, I do see potential dark sides. I do think that this is going to be better for us at the end. I do see it being a net positive for us, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be a bumpy road to get there. And I think everyone should be prepared for that.
And do you think that AI, or differently, do you think that people actually can make, for example, money with AI? I know we are I'm not talking about companies which are investing millions into creating products, for example, in healthcare, right? I had one on my podcast. But what I mean is here, people often ask me, how to make money with AI. What can I do to make money? You can do automations. You can, I don't know, write books, for example, right? Do you think people can really earn money with the basic knowledge of AI?
So if you were to ask me let me rephrase that slightly. What's the one job that I know is going to exist in 5 years? That is going to be a solopreneur, meaning a one-person company where you have hundreds or thousands of AIs working for you. That is the one business I know is going to exist out there. I'm seeing remnants of it today. You can't displace that one person. It's going to lead to so much more entrepreneurship, and it's going to lead to people making a lot of money doing that. That's the honest truth. But what does that mean? You can't just build a business. Well, I got a whole bunch of AIs. Hey, figure something out. You need to be super focused on serving your customer. I mean, ultimately, it's building a product, building a service, using AIs to help you do that. That is really going to solve a problem that a customer that you care deeply about is having. If you can identify that, that's where I would start. I wouldn't start with how do I make money with AI? I think that's the secondary thing. Find a customer, find a problem, find a way to solve that. Use AI to brainstorm, to help you figure that out, all that kind of stuff. And then use the tools to help you make a business, to help you with your tax filings or legal filings and invoicing and all these things that AI is or is going to be really, really good at. That is the opportunity with AI that I see.
I agree. I ask this question because nowadays, or in a couple of weeks back, when I was, sitting and lying in a bed, having a bad influenza, I was reading a lot, finally, some news and so on. And the one topic which was standing out was vibe coding. People, non-engineers, non-IT, creating applications, losing money on backend and millions of tokens that the customers use, but it worked backwards. What you just said was find a client which has the problem and try to figure it out or solve it with AI. But millions of people are now trying to do different or the opposite way or opposite thing, that they are trying to give solutions to people using AI, vibe coding it, not having any, AI, not even AI knowledge, coding knowledge, and trying to sell it for, I don't know, 100 euros, 150 euros, or millions. It doesn't really matter what the price is, just my opinion.
Absolutely. Jan, I learned this very early in my days of PayPal. So 2013, I'm working on a product called PayPal Beacon. Amazing technology, super, super forward thinking. Basically, it was a little piece of hardware that a merchant would stick into an electrical outlet. It would send out Bluetooth 4.0 messages, which were very new at the time. It was a new standard that would talk to your phone, let you check in. It was such a cool technology that we had. We loved the technology. We filed all these patents on it, and that led me to filing all these other patents in PayPal and all this other wonderful stuff that came from it. But Jan, we weren't actually solving a customer problem. We got so wrapped up with how cool the technology is, and we lost focus of like, oh, this was an actual problem that customers had. So fast forward to exactly what you said today, that same analogy. AI is really cool. You could do so many darn things with it. It's amazing what you could do. But if you're not solving a customer, like a real, like human customer's problem, then it's not going to lead to anything. You're going to build a beacon and maybe you're going to file a patent or whatever else, but like, do you know what? Nobody's going to want to buy the thing. And like, that's focus on the customer problem first, and everything else will come from that.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I need to write it on my wall on my office. So
it's hard because especially for people like you and me, we like the technology. We get excited about it. It's like, ooh, the technology, that's cool. But like, you have to always step back and like, wait a minute, it's cool tech, but it's actually solving the problem we're trying to solve. Yeah,
that's a good one, really good one. And talking about earning money and so on, I'm based in Poland. But I observe also countries like Slovakia and Czech Republic. I'm coming from Slovakia. Czech country is kind of like really neighbor, right? This was Czechoslovakia in back in the days.
Yeah.
So I observe the market and I see my competitors as well. Many podcasters, many AI gurus and experts appeared in the last 2 years. But there is one person who wrote a book about no work. That's the name of the book, and he wrote it fully with AI. And I'm just thinking like, okay, he wrote it with the AI, he's selling it for like money, but still it's AI, it's nothing else. And back in the days when he published it 2 years ago, I believe he was using the first models, which were like really terrible in my opinion compared to what we have now, right? Either Claude Sonnet 3.7 or the new models from OpenAI. So the book quality is probably like really basic. So my question is like, should we actually pay for such a thing? Like, because there is no, creative work, maybe it is because he had to, prompt it and double check it and so on. But still, like, that's one example came to my mind. Like, should we pay for something with what was created by AI?
I mean, here's what I would say. Like, it's not clear where the line is right now. We don't know really where the line is. Like, if you had an author who was using spell check when they were writing something, I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with that. And that's AI. I mean, spell check, Grammarly, things like that. That's using artificial intelligence to be able to do that. 40 years ago, when I was first introduced to that, like that actually was like, oh, wait, that's cheating. Today, we don't see that as cheating. Like, we don't even think about that. Like, people don't even think about that as being AI, but it is. I mean, especially how it's being done today. Just hitting, single prompt, hitting a button, say, hey, write me a book on no work. I want to be really good and interesting. ChatGPT, you do that. Go. And then having it spit out 20,000 words, that's the other end of the spectrum. That definitely doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem authentic or anything. Most everything else is going to be in the middle. So I've actually written books under the pen name Alex Irons that do that very thing, where I just give one simple prompt. Maybe I come up with an idea. Sometimes I'm even like, AI, you come up with the idea. Do that. I've been doing that since 2022. And I will tell people that all those books stink. You can buy them on Amazon. Most are 99 cents in the US. I give all the money into charity. I want to be very clear with that. I don't feel right taking any money for these. It's really an experiment that I have been running for years, and I just want to see how this progresses. And even, I think I made one within the last month. And look, I'll usually read the first page or two of it, and then I get bored by it because I'm like, it's not really interesting. So much as humans, we get the connection behind there. We're not interested. Jan, are you a fan of basketball at all?
It's a good question. I used to play basketball when I was a kid. Now, not really. But there is a Polish player, Jeremy Sochan. Yeah. So yeah, but I know the game. Yes.
So I live in San Francisco area, and we have Steph Curry, who's a world-known basketball player, and people will pay hundreds of dollars, myself included, to see that man take a ball and put it into a round hole from very far distances. And it's amazing and it's exciting to do that. Uh, Toyota has built a robot that can do that way better than Steph Curry can. Way better. Like they actually had it shooting free throws. And you'll probably appreciate this, Jan. I think it made something like 2,500 free throws in a row. And they finally just had to unplug it and go home because they're like, it's just never going to miss. Like they were going to see how long it took. And then they were just like, we've been here all day. Like we just like need to go back to our families because this thing's never going to miss. Do you know what? Like that might be interesting to watch for like a couple minutes, but it's boring. There's no human connection. There's no story behind that. All of those kind of things, we're totally missing of that. We have an attraction to other human beings. We want to see Steph Curry play because we've seen his story, or we know his story, or we know he could fail, and all this other kind of stuff. We're not as interested in seeing a robot do that. I think the same is true for books too. Even if a human and an AI produce the exact same thing, if you could give me some level of assurance that this is a human, this is that person, this is about the author, that person's backstory. I heard them talk about how they're inspired to write this in a podcast, all this other kind of stuff versus somebody just put in a prompt. I'm going to enjoy this version of the book much more than I will this one, even though it's the exact same words. Now I'm saying that I feel there's a research experiment I need to actually there's totally a research experiment I need to do, like literally testing that to have people evaluate short stories. Like I'm making note of that after that. But it's going to tell us that we're more attracted to the human side of things. 100%. That said, so like, where's the line? I don't know. Do I write a lot? Do I use AI to help me write? Absolutely. Do I approve every single word that goes in there? Absolutely. Like it is me. I am having AI help me brainstorm. I am having it help me with grammar. I am having it help me with, research, all those kinds of things in there. But ultimately it's me. So in that example, gosh, just to know, like, it's like, where's the border? And until we really know where that is, the story behind the story, it's hard to say. But we're always going to be attracted to humans for this.
And that's an interesting tip, So maybe I should take out my book from the shelf and maybe start working on it, because I had a plan to actually write a book. I had the draft, and then I stopped it or paused it because I said like, nobody will read it. There is no point, right? But as you say, maybe somebody will get to the story. Maybe somebody will get to the story through me, to my message, and will read it. So yeah, you never know.
I mean, and you can have an AI help you with that. Look, AI is great at like just throwing it in there and saying, "Hey, Claude, here's the beginning of my story. Critique what I got so far." Like, and what paths do you think I could and should go down? And it's going to it's going to give new life to the story just by you doing the work through that and making choices. It's like having a co-writer. We don't all have the luxury of having a writing partner that we can work with all the time. Like with these tools, we have that. And it allows us to be more creative. That's one thing I firmly do believe. Like AI isn't about sapping creativity. It allows us to be more creative in the end.
And now I will give you the question, which I get very often. I actually have had one episode with the person who was on the other side of the spectrum, and said like, AI is not creative. It actually just replicates what was already created before, so it doesn't come out with new ideas. So how to balance this question or answer?
So
is it real creativity?
I don't know if it's real creativity, but when applied to what a human is doing, like we can make it into real creativity. So let me give an example. There's it's called the Tower of Babel. I might be getting that wrong, but effectively you could go online, you could Google this and type in any sequence of characters. Like, Mike and Jan were talking, and then Mike spilled water on the computer, and clowns came out of the keyboard. That sentence has probably never been said before, but I could type that very sentence in there, and it's going to actually show me where in the library that sentence exists. And what it's doing is it's just taking mathematical probabilities of the English language. 26 times 26 times 26 times 20, like
Mm-hmm.
just like through the, like just basically that's all that it's doing. And it gives a crazy big number in the end for the amount of characters that it allows. But basically what this is doing is it's just saying, well, every story has already been written. I mean, think about every picture. Every picture, if you're looking at a digital picture, it's just pixels. And there's a certain resolution of those pixels. Every one of those boxes can be a certain number of colors. There are a limited amount of pictures that you could actually have in the world, um, or at least that we could perceive with, what
Mm-hmm.
that technology is. And so here's the thing, like an AI can do infinite amount of things. If I ask an AI for like 500 ideas for the very next sentence in your story,
Mm-hmm.
I bet you, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 of those are going to be pretty darn good sentences. Now, does that mean AI is creative? Well, no. I mean, it's just kind of, it's matching patterns and all that. But where the creativity comes out is you looking through that and saying like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's pretty good. Like, I'm going to actually take that sentence and then take this in a different way and building on that and so forth. So, and this is how human creativity works too. Like, the only reason I have all these patents is because I had
Mm-hmm.
thousands of other ideas that weren't good. It takes thousands and
Mm-hmm.
thousands of ideas to get down to hundreds of good ones. And that's true in any story, in any product, in any business.
Mm-hmm. Mike, now one of the last questions I have for you today is, and how do you see this evolving? Like, do you really believe that soon enough the computers will be smarter than we are? Like, is it like really behind the corner? Like some experts are saying that AGI is coming and it will be here in 5 years. Yesterday, I was reading an article from the director or CEO of DeepMind who said that in the next 10 years, AI will help, for example, erase all the uh, and all the diseases. Like,
Disease. Yeah.
yeah,
He basically said 10 years disease will solve disease. Yeah.
yeah.
Look, that's
So,
pretty darn optimistic. That is pretty optimistic. The one thing I would say with that is like, even if a computer can give you the solution to all that, it doesn't mean we have the implementation. There's a book called Abundance that's out by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson. It just got released recently in the US. And it tells the story of penicillin. And the story that myself included, most of us know about penicillin is Alexander Fleming leaves a petri dish out,
mhm,
bacteria gets in there and it kills the stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. The other part of that story, which I didn't
mhm,
know, was that 12, 13 years go by and like literally zero people have ever used penicillin. Like they never brought this to scale. So
mhm,
penicillin, which has probably saved more lives than just about anything we have done in the
mhm,
last, 100 or so years,
mhm,
it was never brought to scale until much later. And in fact, at one point, they did run some trials. Of the 5 people they gave the penicillin to, 2 of them died. So if you were like, and it wasn't until the war efforts in the United States that they
mhm,
learned how to scale this up and bring that out. And then it was in the 1940s that like, okay, we actually have this penicillin that we could use as an antibiotic and cure so many things. Less people are dying from infection and so forth because of
mhm,
that. It's huge benefit. Um, with the disease thing, I do kind of see that as well. Like just because we say like, okay, there's cancer, we got cancer, we can check that one off. There's a lot of things to scale that, to do that. There's resistance. Like, look, if we just said today, hey, we got a DeepMind, Google over here,
mhm.
cured cancer. You just got to go get a shot. Give us a year, we'll make those shots. How many people are going to line up and get that shot? Just because, like, even if they truly did, I know, especially like, most of the US is not going to get that shot. So like there is a lot of things in there.
Mhm.
I think it's great. I think we need to pursue this. I love how Demis is talking about that and the optimism that we have, and that's good and that's strong. But like, there's just a lot of human fallibility that even if we have
Mhm.
this super intelligence, we're still human beings. Our software was developed 100,000 years ago
Mhm.
that we're all operating on. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the best software to be running inside our brains for this AI future that we have. We'll get there. It's just probably going to take us a little bit longer to do stuff.
Yeah, I like this answer. And the last question for today, Mike, is imagine you are meeting a person who is actually a total newbie with AI. It's like, mid 40s, non-technological stuff, or person that doesn't have any knowledge of coding, but wants to improve, wants to change something. So how would you convince this person to actually start with AI?
So here's what I would do. This is similar, Jan, to we were talking about the business. I would say, what's the problem that this person is having? I mean, I never just throw something down a person's throat just because, like, hey, you need to be doing this. Like, what's the problem? For example, my mother, about a year ago, she lives nearby. She called me. She's like, hey, I'm not feeling right. I'm dizzy. I need to go to the hospital. Can you come? I'm like, of course. So I go with her. My father is also there. We're at the hospital. She's fine now. Just spoilers aside. But while she's there, like a hospital experience in the United States, if you're what I like to say bleeding out, like if you're like dying, they will take care of you. They will take good care of you and take care of you right away. If you're just like, yeah, we don't know what's exactly wrong with you, you're going to be waiting a long time. And that was the case. Like you're not dying, but like, yeah, something's wrong. We don't know what it is. So they run tests and you wait for hours and hours and hours. And when I was doing that, we would actually get the results on her phone. The hospital app would actually show us the results, but we didn't, we don't know what this stuff means. And the doctor's not coming by. So I said, like, hey, let's start putting all this stuff in ChatGPT. So I made this special thing for my mom, just kind of like this GPT. I was like, okay, let's put in some information about you. And I'm just going to start taking pictures, literally just start putting screenshots in there of everything that we have. I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. This is the timeline. Just what's up? Like, tell us what's up here. And Jan, I tell you, that was eye-opening for my mom, like for me, for my dad, seeing like, oh my gosh, like how much do you pay for this? Like, wait, what? It's free? It was almost like mind-boggling to see that. It was giving us so much peace of mind. But we would also then ask questions like, hey, when the doctor does come, what are the questions we should ask the doctor? Help be our patient advocate, as they call it in the United States. Like what are the things? Help us out with the process here to do that. And look, my mom was sold on it after that. Like, you didn't have to convince her. Like, she literally took a horrible situation and using a free AI tool on her phone was able to make it into a much better experience. For everybody else out there, AI, like in that world, like, what are the real problems? And you can even ask the AI, like, have the AI interview you to try and figure out, like, what are the problems? Say, go into ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, I don't know how to use you. I want you to help find in my life, where are the areas that you can help me the most? So just start asking me questions and I'll give you answers. And this might actually even be best with voice mode to do that. And just say, like, ask me questions one at a time, and just ask me until you have some good guidance, at least 10 questions. That prompt will get people started. And when they see the personal benefit to them, then they're going to then start to see, like, oh, if I could use it for medical stuff, maybe I can also use it for meal planning. Maybe I can also use it for helping to fix that sink that I'm having problems with in my house. And you start to realize all these other things as part of that.
Love it. Mike, I really love it because it actually put, a piece in my mind that problem solving is the key here. Like I really forgot about it, and thanks for the reminder, because sometimes I have a feeling that I'm in this wheel, right? Like work, family, sports, whatever, and then I'm trying to give people answers before understanding what their problem is. And because I have clients in digital marketing, and everybody has problems, they want to sell more, or be more visible, or grow audience on Instagram, whatever, you name it. It's still, my question is, like, what's your problem?
Yes. Always start with that. And look, people don't even know what their problem is. Or they might say their problem is X, but really that's like a symptom of a problem and you got to get to the root. So, like, like so much of business. Like, I mean, if people just stepping back and trying to figure out, okay, what are those problems? How do we solve those?
Yeah, love it. Really, really, Mike. Thank you very much for being here with me today. I really enjoyed our discussion. I believe it was super helpful, not only for everybody who's listening. I believe that they will take up some value, but for me personally as well, I really take it as a really good talk.
Well, Jan, I love being here. I'm happy to come back if you'll ever have me again in the future. I really enjoyed our discussion today, and I'm glad you're doing better too. So I will say that.
Yeah,
That's most important.
thank you very much, Mike. So take care,
All
and
right,
when you will be in Europe, then let me know, especially in Poland, right? I will host you here physically as
will
well.
do. Appreciate it, Jan. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, Mike. Bye bye.